My childhood friend thought she deserved a cut of my inheritance, saying, "I stuck around when you were broke, so you owe me." When I refused, she stormed out, screaming, "I'll sue you for emotional damages." A month later, she showed up at my door holding a legal notice, but it wasn't for me. It was a lawsuit against her for filing a false claim. Growing up in the quiet village of Renville, Ohio, with a population of just 28, I shared an unbreakable bond with my childhood friend, Sarah. Our days were filled with adventures through the dense woods surrounding our village, building forts from fallen branches and sharing secrets under the vast Midwestern sky. Our families were close-knit, often gathering for community events at the village hall or Sunday picnics by Sunday Creek. These moments solidified a friendship that felt more like sisterhood. As we transitioned into our teenage years, our paths began to diverge. I was academically inclined, spending hours at the local library, immersing myself in books and dreaming of a future beyond our small village. Sarah, on the other hand, found joy in the familiar rhythms of Renville. She was deeply rooted in our community, participating in local events and cherishing the simplicity of village life. Despite our differing aspirations, our friendship remained steadfast. Sarah would often tease me about my big city dreams, while I admired her commitment to our hometown. After high school, I pursued my ambitions and secured a scholarship to study journalism at Ohio State University in Columbus. The transition from a village of 28 to a bustling city was overwhelming. The towering buildings, the constant hum of traffic, and the sea of unfamiliar faces made me yearn for the comforting familiarity of Renville. Sarah sensed my struggles and became my anchor. She sent handwritten letters filled with updates from home, care packages with my favorite homemade cookies, and even made the 2-hour drive to visit me on weekends. Her unwavering support was a lifeline during those challenging times. Financially, college was a strain. Scholarships covered tuition, but living expenses in Columbus quickly added up. There were moments when I had to choose between buying textbooks or groceries. Sarah, despite her modest means, offered assistance without hesitation. She'd slip a $20 bill into her letters with notes like, "For coffee during late-night study sessions," or "Treat yourself to something sweet." I was always touched by her generosity and made it a point to repay her whenever I could, though she never expected it. Upon graduating, I was fortunate to land a reporting job at a reputable newspaper in Columbus. Around the same time, my grandmother, who had been a pillar in my life, passed away. In her will, she left me her house in Renville and a substantial sum of money. The inheritance was unexpected and bittersweet. While I was grieving her loss, I was also faced with decisions about the property and how to honor her legacy. I shared the news with Sarah during one of our regular phone calls. She was elated. "That's incredible. Your grandma always adored you. We should celebrate," she exclaimed. To express my gratitude for her unwavering support over the years, I invited her to Columbus for a weekend, covering all expenses. We explored the city, dined at my favorite spots, and reminisced about our childhood adventures. It felt like old times, and I was hopeful that our bond was as strong as ever. However, on the final evening of her visit, as we sat on the balcony of my apartment overlooking the city lights, Sarah's demeanor shifted. She grew quiet, her gaze fixed on the horizon. After a prolonged silence, she turned to me and said, "I've been thinking about your inheritance." I looked at her, puzzled. "What about it?" She hesitated before continuing, "Well, considering all the times I was there for you, especially during college when you were struggling, don't you think it's fair to share some of that inheritance with me?" I was taken aback. "Sarah, I deeply appreciate everything you've done for me, and I've always tried to repay you whenever I could. But this inheritance was my grandmother's wish for me. It's not something I can just divide." Her eyes narrowed, and her voice took on an edge I hadn't heard before. "So, after all these years, after everything I've done, I get nothing?" I tried to reason with her. "It's not about getting something or not. This was a personal family matter. My grandmother wanted me to have this." She stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. "I can't believe this. I stood by you when you had nothing." You owe me. I felt a lump form in my throat. Sarah, please, let's not do this. I value our friendship too much. But she was already grabbing her coat. As she headed for the door, she turned back and said, "You'll regret this. I might just sue you for emotional damages." With that, she left, leaving me in stunned silence. The following weeks were a blur. I reached out to Sarah multiple times, leaving voicemails and sending messages, hoping to mend the rift. But she remained unresponsive. Mutual friends from Renville mentioned that she was upset, feeling betrayed and undervalued. I was heartbroken. Losing my grandmother was painful, but the potential loss of my closest friend felt like another devastating blow. One evening, about a month after our confrontation, there was a knock at my door. I opened it to find Sarah standing there, holding an envelope. Her expression was unreadable. "Sarah," I began, relief washing over me. "I've been trying to reach you." She handed me the envelope. "You've been served," she said coldly. Confused, I took the envelope and opened it. It was a legal notice stating that Sarah was suing me for emotional distress, claiming that my refusal to share my inheritance had caused her significant psychological harm. I looked up, searching her face for any sign of the friend I once knew. "Sarah, is this really necessary? Can't we talk about this?" She crossed her arms. "I tried talking. You made your choice." With that, she turned and walked away, leaving me standing in the doorway, the weight of the situation pressing down on me. The days that followed were filled with anxiety and disbelief. I sought legal counsel, hoping to understand the implications of the lawsuit. My attorney, a seasoned professional, reviewed the case and reassured me. "This lawsuit lacks merit," he said. "It's evident she's trying to manipulate the situation. We'll fight this." As the court date approached, I couldn't help but reflect on our friendship. From our childhood adventures in Renville to our late-night talks during college, it was hard to reconcile those memories with the current reality. I missed my friend. I missed the bond we shared. But I also knew that some lines, once crossed, were difficult to retrace. The day of the hearing arrived. I sat in the courtroom, my attorney by my side, as Sarah presented her case. She spoke of our history, her support during my challenging times, and how my refusal had devastated her. Her voice wavered, and for a moment, I saw a glimpse of the friend I once knew. When it was our turn, my attorney presented evidence of the financial assistance Sarah had provided and how I had repaid her in full. He emphasized that the inheritance was a familial matter, unrelated to any agreements or understandings between Sarah and me. The judge listened intently before delivering the verdict. While it's commendable that Miss Sarah supported her friend during challenging times, there's no legal basis for her claim to the inheritance. The court finds in favor of the defendant. Relief washed over me, but it was bittersweet. Sarah didn't take the loss in court well. As soon as the judge dismissed the case, she didn't even look in my direction. She stormed out of the courtroom with her jaw clenched, fists tight, and that same glare she gave me the night on the balcony. I stayed seated, stunned, wondering how we got to this point. It wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about something deeper, resentment that had been building over the years and finally exploded. 2 days later, my phone buzzed with a message from a high school friend I hadn't spoken to in years. "Hey, just saw this. Are you okay?" Attached was a screenshot. Sarah had made a long, public Facebook post about me. She didn't use my name, but everyone from Renville would know exactly who she was talking about. It read like this: "Some people forget who was there when they had nothing. They get a little money and suddenly act like they made it all on their own. I supported someone through college, through depression, even when they cried themselves to sleep. And when I needed a little help, silence, coldness, betrayal. I'm speaking out not for sympathy, but for the people who've been used and tossed aside. Some friendships are just ladders to climb." The post had hundreds of likes and a storm of comments. Some people jumped to her defense. Others asked questions. Some shared vague statements like, "I knew she was always like that." My stomach twisted. It was one thing to sue me. It was another to poison the minds of people I grew up with. My inbox started filling with messages. A few friends asked for my side of the story. Others didn't bother. They just unfriended me. It was like watching my old life catch fire and knowing I had no water to put it out. I thought things would settle, but then I got a letter in the mail. Not another lawsuit this time. It was from my employer's HR department. An anonymous tip had been sent in, accusing me of ethical misconduct and financial dishonesty. Someone claimed I used illegally obtained funds to buy influence for a recent article I had published. I knew immediately who it was. Sarah was trying to ruin me. I went straight to my boss. Thankfully, they trusted me. I handed over everything: bank statements, inheritance documents, even emails from my lawyer. HR launched an investigation, and after 2 tense weeks, I was cleared. But the damage was done. Whispers floated around the office. People didn't say it out loud, but I could feel it in their eyes, in the polite distance they kept. I started getting paranoid. I changed my locks. I deleted my Facebook. I made all my social media private. Sarah was unraveling, and I didn't know how far she'd go. Then the strangest thing happened. One morning, there was a knock on my door. When I opened it, a man in a brown suit stood there, holding a thick envelope. "Are you Sarah Jenkins?" he asked. I blinked. "No, that's not me." He looked confused. Checked the address again. "This is the address on the file. This person listed this as her residence." He handed me the envelope and left. I looked down. It was a legal notice, subpoenaed documents in a defamation and false claim case filed against Sarah. Not by me. By someone else. I opened it, confused. It was addressed to Sarah Jenkins, care of my address. She had used my home as her mailing address in the legal documents she filed against me. Somehow, she was still tying herself to me legally. Probably to try and make the suit look stronger. She lied on her legal forms. And now someone else was coming after her for it. That same day, I called my lawyer. He reviewed the documents and raised his eyebrows. "She messed up," he said. "Badly. This might be enough to file a harassment claim." But that wasn't even the biggest twist. 2 days later, I got a call from a woman named Dana. She was polite but firm. "I'm calling about Sarah Jenkins," she said. I saw the post she made and some of the things she said. She did something similar to me. Not about money, but she twisted things. Lied. Told people I hurt her when it was the other way around. I never had proof until I saw what she did to you. You're not the only one. My throat went dry. What do you mean? She did this to another friend back in 2019. Same pattern. Got close, helped them through a hard time, then demanded something in return. When they said no, she accused them of betrayal and blasted them online. Filed fake reports. It nearly cost them their job. Now people were reaching out with their own Sarah stories. Each one echoed mine. It was like peeling back a layer I didn't know was there. Sarah had a history, but nobody had spoken up. Until now. It kept getting worse. A week after that call from Dana, I got a certified letter from the Renville Zoning Board. That was odd. I hadn't done anything with the house my grandmother left me, just kept up with taxes and minor upkeep. I opened the letter, thinking maybe it was about lawn care or something minor. It wasn't. The letter stated that a formal complaint had been filed against the property, accusations of unauthorized modifications, potential safety hazards, and suspicious activity. It said I needed to respond within 14 days or face fines. Attached were a few photos of the front yard, with random junk piled in the grass, old furniture, broken boxes, even what looked like some sort of appliance left in the middle of the driveway. None of it was mine. I hadn't been back to the house in over a month. My stomach dropped. I called the one neighbor I trusted in Renville, Mr. Hamlin, an old friend of my grandmother's. He answered on the second ring. "Hey, Mr. Hamlin, it's me. I just got a letter from the zoning board about Grandma's house. Do you know what's going on over there?" He sighed. "I've been meaning to call you. Someone's been living there." "What?" "A woman. Maybe mid-30s. I didn't recognize her at first. Moved in about 3 weeks ago. Said she had permission. Figured she was a relative." "Did she say her name?" He paused. "Yeah. Said she was your cousin or something. Jenkins. Sarah. Sarah had broken into the house. She had moved in. I drove straight to Renville the next morning. It was a 3-hour trip, but it felt like 10. I didn't call the police on the way. I wanted to see it with my own eyes before I did anything. When I pulled up to the house, my heart stopped. The yard looked trashed, overgrown weeds, garbage bags piled up, a mattress on the porch. The front door was wide open. A small beat-up red car I didn't recognize sat crooked in the driveway. My grandma's home, the place I spent every summer, looked like it had been abandoned for years. I walked up to the porch and stepped inside. The smell hit first, stale food, old wood, something else I couldn't quite place. Furniture was moved around. My grandma's antique cabinet was gone. I found Sarah in the kitchen, wearing pajama pants and a hoodie, barefoot, holding a bowl of cereal. She didn't even flinch when she saw me. "Oh, you're here," she said casually. "What the hell are you doing?" I said. She shrugged. "You weren't using it. And I needed space to think. This is trespassing. You broke into my house. It's not breaking in if you have a key. I never gave you a key." She set the bowl down and looked me dead in the eye. "Your grandmother did." I froze. "What?" She leaned against the counter like she belonged there. "She told me once, years ago, that if anything ever happened to her, I'd always be welcome." I took that seriously. "That's not a will. That's not a legal document." She smiled like she'd won. "Maybe not. But maybe a judge will see it differently." That's when I noticed something worse. On the table behind her was a small stack of envelopes. My name, written in my own handwriting, on the outside of each. Opened. They were the letters I had written to Sarah during college. She'd saved them. And apparently, she'd brought them here. She saw me looking. "You wrote a lot back then," she said. "About how lost you felt. How I was the only one there for you." I shook my head slowly. "What are you doing?" "Showing the world who you really are. You've changed. You got money, got a job, and forgot who helped you get there." I stepped back, heart racing. "I'm calling the cops." She didn't even blink. "Do it." And I did. It took them 20 minutes to arrive. She didn't resist. She sat calmly on the porch while they questioned her. She told them the story about my grandma welcoming her anytime. They asked if she had a key. She said yes, but when asked to produce it, she just pointed to a fake plastic rock under the porch steps. The spare. The one my grandma did keep there for me. They asked me if I wanted to press charges. I said yes. She was arrested for trespassing and unlawful occupancy. The officer gave her a chance to grab her stuff. I stood on the porch, arms crossed, as she packed 2 garbage bags with clothes and papers. Before leaving, she turned back and said, "This isn't over." She was right. 3 days later, I got a letter from her attorney. She was suing me again, this time for illegally removing her personal property from a shared residence and causing psychological trauma through wrongful eviction. But this time, I had something she didn't count on: the arrest record. Police photos of the mess she left. Signed statements from neighbors. Video footage from Mr. Hamlin's doorbell cam showing her moving in with bags. And yet, the fact that she had tried to use our old letters, tried to spin them into proof that she was more than just a friend, that she somehow had rights to my family's legacy, shook me in a way no lawsuit ever could. I was done pretending this was just about money. Sarah wasn't just bitter. She was obsessed. I decided to fight back, not just legally, but publicly. The lawsuits, the invasion, the lies. Sarah crossed too many lines. I had tried silence. I had tried grace. None of it worked. She took kindness as weakness, and I was done playing nice. My lawyer and I gathered everything. The letters she used out of context? I released the full versions. I scanned each page, uploaded them to a site, and shared them with people back home who had been fed only her version of the truth. Then came the video. Mr. Hamlin had more footage, Sarah sneaking around the back of the house at night, dragging in bags, even moving furniture. One clip showed her yelling into the air on the front lawn, pacing barefoot and talking to herself. That part one didn't share. I kept it for court. I wasn't out to humiliate her. I wanted justice. Still, word got around. People began seeing the real picture. Then Dana, the woman who called me earlier, found a blog post Sarah had written years ago under a fake name, describing a revenge fantasy about a friend who betrayed her. The details were too specific. It was about me. She described destroying my career, taking over my life, even taking over my home. She had been thinking about this for years. We submitted that too. The judge for the new case saw it all. He didn't just dismiss her claims, he ordered a psychological evaluation. She failed to show up for the first 2 appointments. Sarah went silent for a while. Then, out of nowhere, a storm of emails hit my inbox. From her. Page after page. Most were rambling. Some were angry. Others sounded like apologies, half-formed and full of guilt. She talked about her mother's death, her fear of being forgotten, how helping me through college had been the only time she felt needed. And then the last message. I was never going to stop. I wanted your life. I thought if I could just break you down, make you need me again, you'd come back. I didn't know how to let go. I'm sorry, but I won't ask forgiveness. I'm tired. That same day, her cousin reached out. Sarah had been hospitalized. She'd been found in a motel outside town, passed out from a mix of alcohol and something else. She survived, but she wouldn't talk to anyone. Wouldn't eat. Wouldn't open her eyes. I drove out there once. I didn't go inside. I stood in the hallway, saw her cousin pacing outside the room. Then I left. 3 months passed. I focused on fixing the house, clearing the names she tried to smear. I went back to work. The gossip died down. People moved on. Then one final twist came. I got a letter from a lawyer. Not mine. Not hers. Inside was a single-page document. Sarah had listed me as her emergency contact. And oddly, left me the only thing she had, her journals. I didn't know what to do with them. At first, I shoved them in a drawer. But weeks later, I opened one. The writing inside was wild, up and down, sometimes poetic, sometimes terrifying. Pages where she called me her best friend. Others where she called me a thief. The same book, opposite pages. One thing stood out in all caps. If she had just said, "Thank you for everything," maybe I wouldn't have done any of this. And maybe she was right. Maybe I hadn't said thank you enough. Maybe I'd taken too long to show real appreciation. Maybe I'd ignored signs of her loneliness while chasing my own survival. Maybe I owed her more compassion early on. But that didn't justify what she did. We both made mistakes. Hers nearly cost me everything. Mine was assuming she'd always be okay just because she smiled. I didn't forgive her. But I didn't hate her either. Not anymore. Some people are broken in ways we can't fix. Sometimes revenge isn't fire and courtrooms and payback. Sometimes it's silence. It's walking away while they're still screaming. It's choosing peace while they lose everything trying to take yours. And I chose peace. Even if it still haunts me.